Welcome to Story Path English. I am so very glad you have joined us once again. Please, take a moment to find a truly comfortable place to settle in. Perhaps you can sink into a soft sofa or wrap yourself in a warm, knitted blanket. Let your feet rest heavily on the floor, let your hands be still, and allow the worries of your day to melt away like mist in the morning sun. Imagine, if you will, that we are sitting together by a warm, glowing campfire. The night around us is vast and peaceful. High above, the stars are brilliant and sharp, like diamonds scattered across a dark velvet canopy. The air is soft and still, carrying the faint, earthy scent of wood smoke and the quiet promise of the deep night. The only sound is the gentle, rhythmic crackle of the wood as the flames dance in the dark. Tonight, I want to tell you a story about a place that seems like it has always been the same, a place of heat, sand, and silence. But it is a story of a hidden past, of a great transformation, and a secret that was buried for thousands of years. This is the mystery of the Sahara, the time when the world's biggest desert was green. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine the Sahara as it is today. It is a place of staggering scale, a sea of sand the size of the entire United States. Picture the dunes, some as tall as skyscrapers, shifting slowly in the wind. The heat is so intense that it makes the horizon shimmer and dance. There is almost no water, no shade, and very few sounds except for the whistling of the wind across the rocks. It is a place that feels as though life has been forgotten. But what if I told you that this was once a paradise? What if I told you that where there is now only dust and bone, there were once deep blue lakes, rushing rivers, and forests filled with the songs of birds? It sounds like a fairy tale, doesn't it? But the earth keeps its own diary, and the secrets of the Sahara are written in the stones and the sands. Our story of discovery begins in a very strange place, in the middle of the most desolate part of the desert, a place called the Gilf Kebir Plateau. In the 1930s, explorers found something that shocked the world. Deep inside caves, hidden away from the sun, they found ancient paintings on the walls. These were not paintings of sand or sun. They were paintings of people swimming. Imagine that. People, painted in red and white ochre, kicking their legs and reaching their arms out through water that hasn't existed for 5,000 years. Nearby, there were drawings of giraffes, elephants, and hippopotamuses. There were even drawings of cattle grazing on lush grass. Have you ever seen something that felt completely out of place? Like finding a seashell on top of a mountain. That is what these paintings were, a memory of a world that had vanished. To understand how this happened, we must go back about 10,000 years. This was a time that scientists call the African Humid Period. During this time, the Earth's wobble, a very slow change in the tilt of our planet's axis, brought the northern hemisphere closer to the sun during the summer. This small change in the heavens had a massive effect on the Earth. It moved the monsoon rains further north, right into the heart of what is now the Sahara. Suddenly, the sky opened up. The rains came down on the thirsty land, and the desert began to wake up. It didn't happen overnight, but slowly, the yellow sand was covered by a carpet of green. Grasses grew tall, and trees like the acacia and the oak began to spread. The low places in the land filled with water, creating massive lakes. One of these, called Lake Mega Chad, was larger than all the Great Lakes of North America combined. It was an inland sea in the middle of Africa. Can you see it in your mind? Imagine standing on the shore of a vast lake in the middle of the Sahara. You see crocodiles sunning themselves on the banks. You hear the splash of giant perch in the water. Giraffes wander through the trees, and ancient people, our ancestors, live in small villages along the water's edge. They were fishermen, hunters, and artists. They lived in a land of plenty, a land of flowing water and singing birds. It was a golden age of life. For nearly 5,000 years, the Sahara was the green heart of the continent. But, as we know, nature is always moving, always changing. About 5,000 years ago, the Earth's tilt began to shift back. The monsoon rains started to retreat to the south. The clouds became fewer, and the sun became fiercer. Imagine being one of the people living there during that time. It didn't happen in a single day, but over generations. Each year, the lakes grew a little smaller. The grass became a little thinner. The rivers that used to roar became quiet streams, and then they became nothing but dry, sandy paths. Have you ever felt the sadness of watching something beautiful fade away? That was the tragedy of the Green Sahara. The people had to make a choice. They couldn't stay in a land that was turning to dust. They began to move. Some went south toward the rainforests, but many moved east toward the only source of water that remained, the Nile River. Many historians believe that the drying of the Sahara is what actually gave birth to the greatness of ancient Egypt, because so many people were forced into the narrow valley of the Nile. They had to learn to work together, to build irrigation, and to create a structured society. The pyramids, the temples, and the pharaohs might never have existed if the Sahara had stayed green. The desert pushed humanity toward greatness. But the story of the Sahara doesn't end with it becoming a desert. Even today, in its dry and dusty state, the Sahara has a secret connection to the rest of the world. It is a story of how the earth is one giant breathing organism. Deep in the Sahara, in a place called the Baudelaire Depression, there is an ancient lake bed made of the dust of tiny, dried-up sea creatures called diatoms. Every year, the powerful winds of the Sahara pick up millions of tons of this dust. It rises high into the atmosphere, forming a massive, yellow cloud that travels thousands of miles across the Atlantic Ocean. Where does it go? It goes to the Amazon rainforest in South America. This is the most beautiful secret of all. The dust from the dead, dry Sahara is rich in phosphorus, a vital nutrient that the Amazon needs to stay green and lush. The biggest desert in the world is actually feeding the biggest rainforest in the world. Without the dust of the Sahara, the Amazon might wither and die. It is a bridge made of wind and sand, connecting two completely different worlds. Isn't it incredible to think about? The world is never just one thing. A desert is not just a desert. It is a former garden and a future fertilizer. Everything is connected in a circle of life that spans continents and thousands of years. As we sit here by our campfire and the wood turns to glowing red embers, let's think about what the Sahara teaches us. It teaches us about the power of change. It reminds us that nothing is permanent, not the ice, not the forests, and not the sand. The earth is constantly reinventing itself, breathing in and breathing out over thousands of years. The Green Sahara was a moment in time, a blink of an eye in the history of our planet. But it left behind a message. It left it in the swimming figures on the cave walls and in the fish bones buried under the dunes. It tells us that life is resilient. Life finds a way to bloom in the rain, and it finds a way to move when the rain stops. The Sahara is currently in its dry phase, but scientists tell us that because of the Earth's orbit, it will likely turn green again in about 15,000 years. The cycle will continue. The grass will return, the lakes will fill, and perhaps one day, someone will sit by a campfire in a lush, green valley and tell stories of the great yellow desert that used to be there. When you think of the Sahara now, I hope you don't just see a place of heat and emptiness. I hope you see the hidden lakes. I hope you see the giraffes wandering through the acacia trees. I hope you remember the artists in the caves who wanted us to know that they once swam in the heart of the desert. History is not just about humans. It is about the land we walk on. It is about the rhythms of the stars and the movement of the wind. We are part of a very old, very beautiful story that is still being written. As our fire begins to burn low and the night air grows a little cooler, take a deep breath. Feel the solid ground beneath you. The stars are still bright, watching over us just as they watched over the Green Sahara 10,000 years ago. The world is quiet, and the night is full of wonder. Thank you for wandering down this path with me today at Story Path English. It is a privilege to share these mysteries with you, to sit by the fire and remember the transformations of our world. As the fire fades and the shadows grow long, I hope you carry the spirit of the green desert in your heart. The night is still and the air is soft. May you find the strength to adapt to the changes in your own life, just as our ancestors did. And may you always remember that even in the driest, harshest moments, there is a memory of green and a promise of future rain. Sleep well, or go about your day with a sense of awe for the planet we call home. Until we meet again by the fire, remember that the sand is just waiting for its turn to bloom once more. This is the story of the mystery of the Sahara, and this is Story Path English. Goodbye for now, my friends.